Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. We've got a new day, which of course means a new NBA player prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I have 4 NBA player props to go ahead and share with you guys in today's NBA slate. But first, before we dive into today's picks, we do have to do a quick little recap of how we did last night. And overall, guys, we had a solid night for the most part. In our single bet category, we actually were profitable. We had 2-1 last night. Not a huge win, but we were up just shy of a full unit profit, so not too bad. We did miss out on the Jamal Murray prop, which looked like an absolute cash for the majority of that game. And then the fourth quarter, he just didn't really do much. But we're not going to get greedy. The Edwards prop was a good one. The Ware prop was a good one. And our parlay, we did lose the parlay. 2 out of 3 legs cashed. Anthony Edwards, he finished with 25 points plus assists. Kind of a frustrating one. They were down big in the fourth quarter, had a massive comeback, went to overtime and beat OKC in a pretty shocking victory. What was frustrating was the fact that Edwards did nothing, basically, in overtime and in the fourth quarter. Fell short. We just needed 5 more points plus assists, but hey, it is what it is. Like I said, not a bad night, not a great night, but overall, we were pretty solid for the most part. I think we can definitely do better. I'm going to go ahead and prove it to you in today's video. 4 single bet player props coming your way right now. All right, guys, jumping on over to the outlier screen. Our first player prop in today's slate comes from the Celtics-Raptors game, 7 p.m. tip-off. We're going Derek White of the Boston Celtics over 18.5 points plus assists. Now, we're getting this one for -130 over on FanDuel. Not too bad from a value standpoint, but the data across the board is fantastic on this player prop from a recent standpoint and from an overall standpoint. Looking at the last 10 games here for Derek White, you'll see he's cashed the over in 8 of his last 10 games. That's an 80% hit rate, and he's averaging 22.3 points plus assists per game across his previous 10 games. Now, if you go ahead and stretch that data out to the entire season view here for Derek White, the numbers are still really solid. 72% hit rate on the year for Derek White. He's cashed it in 39 out of 54 games this year. And he's averaging 20.46 points plus assists per game overall this year. So like I said, across the board, some really solid data here on the Derek White prop. We also have the head-to-head numbers here. He's cashed it in 4 of his previous 7 meetings with the Raptors. That's a 57% hit rate. And he's averaging 18 points plus assists per game across those previous 7 matchups against Toronto. So like I said, across the board, pretty good numbers. The last time out on January 15th, he did have a pretty low performance, just 6 points and 1 assist in that game. But just narrowing it down to this year, he's cashed it in 2 out of 3. So really not too shabby. Even the matchup standpoint, Toronto, 25th overall in points allowed, 10th in assists. If we narrow it down to the shooting guard position, they are 21st in points, 4th in assists. And even versus point guards, 23rd in points, 6th in assists. Now, one of the big reasons why I like this player prop is because of the fact that Jrue Holiday is out tonight for the Celtics. They have a couple other injuries with their bench guys, but for the most part, the big one is the fact that Holiday is not playing for rest reasons. And that really does work in our favor. We put a filter here to show the numbers without Jrue Holiday this year. They're really good in the favor of Derek White. Overall this year, Derek White went out with Jrue Holiday, an 82% hit rate on this over. He's cashed it in 9 out of 11 games without Holiday, averaging 22.09 points plus assists per game. So across the board, really good numbers without Holiday. It makes the prop even better. Really good spot for the first player prop in today's video. Before we move on to the next pick, guys, I have a quick announcement to make. We have a very special video dropping today. It is the debut of our NBA edition of H2H. If you don't know what H2H is, it is the show that Ev and myself, it's the only thing we do together here on the channel besides our separate videos. We do a combo show, myself and Ev, during the NFL season where we go head-to-head and give out our picks and kind of battle each other in sort of a game show kind of vibe. We've done it for 2 years now for the NFL, and this is the first year we're doing it for the NBA. So the debut episode of H2H NBA edition drops today around 1 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure, guys, if you watch my videos, if you're a supporter of Ev and the channel in general, make sure to check out that video. It's a lot of fun. We handed out a ton of picks in that video. We had a lot of fun banter back and forth. Some really solid picks that weren't available in this video are available in that video. So yeah, make sure to go ahead and check that out and comment H2H down below. If you're watching today's video at this point, comment H2H down below in the comment section. As always, guys, we appreciate those who watch through each and every single one of our videos. here on the Guy Boston Sports YouTube channel. All right, guys, our second player prop in today's slate comes from the Bucks-Rockets game, 8 p.m. tip-off. We're going Brook Lopez of the Milwaukee Bucks over 10.5 points. We're getting this one for minus 125 over on DraftKings. As always, guys, they are available on multiple sports books for varying odds. Make sure to go ahead and shop around for the best sportsbook odds available. And this is another player prop where the data is pretty solid from a recent standpoint and from an overall standpoint. Look at the recent data here for Brook Lopez. He's cashed the over in 8 of his last 10 games. That is an 80% hit rate, and he's averaging 14 points per game across his last 10 games. So like I said, pretty good numbers for Brook Lopez here. If you go ahead and stretch the data out to the last 20 games, still really good numbers. A 70% hit rate. He's cashed it in 14 out of 20 games, averaging 12.65 points per game. And even if you go ahead and stretch the data out to the entire season view here for Brook Lopez, he's cashed it in 63% of his games, 35 out of 56, averaging 12.5 points per game. So whatever way you want to spin it, you want to look at the more recent data, you want to look at the overall data, across the board, the numbers seem to be pretty positive here for this Brook Lopez line. And the good data doesn't stop there. The head-to-head data against the Rockets also pretty solid. He's cashed the over in 2 of the last 3 meetings against Houston. That's a 67% hit rate, averaging 17.33 points per game across the previous 3 matchups with the Rockets. He's played Houston 1 time this year back on November 18th. He had 27 points in that game for Milwaukee, so a pretty solid performance. He did play almost 40 minutes in that game, it should be noted, but however, we don't need him to score 27 points. We only need him to score 11 points. He shot 11 for 15, pretty good numbers across the board there in those matchups. Now, the one negative I would say about this player prop is the fact that versus centers this year, the Rockets have been pretty solid defensively, but I'm not really overly concerned because, again, we already saw once this year Brook Lopez have a massive performance, and although the Rockets do rank pretty well defensively, I have watched with the eye test some of the Şengün games, and I love Şengün, great player, but there's been some moments where big guys can score on him. He's not the best. I wouldn't say he's gunning for a Defensive Player of the Year award anytime soon. Yes, they fare well versus centers defensively, but I do think that there is a chance that Lopez could get at least 11 points on Şengün in this game. 11 points, really not that much. One last data point to share before we move on to the next player prop. We also have a little filter here to show Brook Lopez this year without Bobby Portis in the lineup. He's obviously serving his 25-game suspension, and the numbers have been pretty good. You see he's cashed the over in 7 of 9 games this year. That is a 78% hit rate when Bobby Portis does not play. He's averaging 15.67 points per game. So when Bobby Portis doesn't play, Brook Lopez has more offensive responsibilities. Looks like we got some pretty good numbers here in our favors. That's the second player prop in today's video. And our third pick in today's slate comes from the Suns-Grizzlies game. 8 p.m. tip-off. We're going Desmond Bane of the Memphis Grizzlies over 24.5 points plus rebounds. We're getting this one for minus 125 over on BetMGM. Now, for this player prop, the recent data is really solid. The overall numbers are okay, not great. You do see his cash is over in 7 of his last 10 games. That is a 70% hit rate, averaging 26.1 points plus rebounds per game over the last 10 games. Go ahead and stretch those numbers out to the last 20 games, and the numbers are still pretty good. You see 14 of the last 20, he's cashed the over. That is a 70% hit rate, averaging 25.8 points plus rebounds per game over the last 20 games. So like I said, pretty good numbers across the board here for Desmond Bane from a recent standpoint. Now, when you do go ahead and stretch the data out to the entire season view for Desmond Bane, it's not great, but it's also not terrible. It is a 50% hit rate. He's averaging 23.76 points plus rebounds per game across the entire season. He's cashed in 23 out of 46 games, so exactly 50%. Like I said, the overall numbers, he had a little bit of a slow start to the year, but you do see over the last 20, 25 games, a lot more green for Desmond Bane. We also have the insights provided by Outlier. Desmond Bane has exceeded 24.5 points plus rebounds in 5 of his last 6 games versus bottom 10 defenses for rebounds allowed, averaging 27 points plus rebounds per game across that data range. And the head-to-head numbers are solid. He's cashed this in 4 straight meetings with the Phoenix Suns. They played 2 times this year. He's cashed the over both times they played this season. So really good numbers across the board here. And versus shooting guards this year, Phoenix 18th in points allowed, 21st in rebounds allowed. So looks pretty solid overall. There are a couple good spots, honestly. Jaren Jackson Jr., not a bad player to maybe bet in this game as well. This Suns team does not go well versus centers. But I do think Desmond Bane is the right play. In my opinion, the recent data is solid. The head-to-head data is solid. He's cashed in 4 straight versus Phoenix. Good matchup, good player prop. That's the third pick in today's slate. And then finally, guys, our fourth player prop in today's video. We're targeting the Hornets-Warriors game, 10 p.m. tip-off. And this is something I don't do often. I'm fading the guy who I typically bet here. Miles Bridges under 35.5 points, rebounds, assists. We're getting this one for -110 over on DraftKings. And I know I constantly say bet the hot hand. Miles Bridges, he's kind of the only thing positive right now going for Charlotte, besides maybe LaMelo Ball, of course. But the data is really good, and I think this is a bad matchup for Bridges. You see the numbers. He's actually cashed this under in 7 of his last 10 games. That's a 70% hit rate, averaging 33.9 PRAs per game over his last 10. Even if you go ahead and stretch the data out to the entire season view, you see a 74% hit rate on this under. 31 out of 42 games he's cashed the under, averaging 31.5 PRAs per game this year. So again, a lot of green across the board on these numbers. Now, we do have to go ahead and show the numbers without Brandon Miller, who obviously we've talked about this multiple times. That has obviously elevated his role. However, even without Brandon Miller, you see 20 of 28 games this year he's cashed the under. So you do see, so he's had some bigger games without Brandon Miller in the lineup. However, the under still cashes the majority of the time. So just a sea of green on this player prop. You also have the head-to-head data. You see he's cashed the under each of the previous 2 matchups against Golden State. Now, let's talk about this a little bit. These are both from last year, so this is kind of old data. The most recent meeting between these two back March 29th of last season. It's also worth noting he just barely missed the under in both of those games. So obviously some things to look at here. Yes, he cashed the under, but they were really tight, close games. In terms of the line, I mean, not the game itself. You see the Warriors blew them out in this game, and the Warriors beat them by double digits both times. So it's not really a close game, but close line there for Miles Bridges. And like I said before, I just think it's a bad matchup here for Miles Bridges. Overall, the Warriors, pretty solid defensive team. 9th in points, 10th in assists, 17th in rebounds in general. Now, Bridges plays between the small forward and the power forward spot. I know the overall numbers don't look great from a power forward perspective, but we have to keep in mind the Jimmy Butler effect. With the addition of Jimmy Butler and, obviously having Draymond and whatnot, they defensively have been playing a lot better overall. I do think Jimmy Butler will probably match up with Miles Bridges in this game. That's not very good for Miles Bridges. As a matter of fact, the last 3 times that he played against Jimmy Butler, he cashed the under all 3 times. Now, Jimmy Butler was obviously a member of the Miami Heat. Some of those games go back to last season as well. But each of the last 3 times he matched up with Jimmy B, he came up short. So good matchup here for us. Bad matchup here for Miles Bridges. The Hornets also second out of a back-to-back. They've been getting blown out consistently, like badly blown out. And last but not least, you have the insights provided by Outlier. Miles Bridges has failed to exceed 35.5 points plus rebounds plus assists in 15 of his last 17 games versus top 10 defenses for points allowed, averaging 27.1 PRAs per game in that span. That's an 88% hit rate. So yeah, really good numbers in our favor again. Not very good for Miles Bridges, but for us, very good. So that's the 4th and final player prop in today's video. Guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. I'll be back tomorrow with another NBA player prop video. Until then, I hope you're all winners. Make sure to check out that H2H video dropping later on today. I'm telling you guys, it's very much worth your time, effort, and energy. It's a really solid video with some really good picks coming your way. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Tuesday. Let's go ahead and make some money.